So, hi everyone. Good afternoon or good evening. You're welcome to today's webinar. I trust your week went well. Okay. Please kindly share your name and where you're joining in from on the comment section. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, based on where you are calling in from. Thank you so much for joining. Today is a really special session. Today is the second of the two-part series. We Ladder Tech platform is basically an avenue where we bridge the gap, the knowledge gap, where we bring in senior engineers to share from their experience, provide guidance to other people who would like to improve their skill set, would like to be better versions of themselves. And part of what we do is we provide one-to-one mentorship programs. We have webinar sessions like this. We also partner with tech hubs, tech communities, and all of that, sponsor tech programs and all of that. So today we are looking at a very interesting topic. We are looking at thriving in the evolving tech landscape. And we are looking basically at number one, we are looking at AI, we are looking at the industry layoffs, we are looking at how to future proof our career, especially when considering all that is happening in our various fields, tech field, and all of that. So we have very distinguished guests. I would like to introduce them briefly. First of all, we have with us Mr. Taiwo Orilogbon. We also have Mr. Richard Boyewa, and we have Mr. Temitayo Fagbowore. But before they start, and before we start diving into the questions, I would like to just introduce them. I'll go through their profile briefly. Number one, I would introduce Mr. Richard Boyewa. So he currently serves as the software engineering manager at Deeds. He's currently spearheading innovative projects and driving excellence in software development. So prior to his current role, he also worked at Tesla, at in Germany, and then was also the head of engineering at Konga online shopping in Nigeria. So he's not just a speaker, I think I believe he has a unique blend of technical expertise and managerial insight. So welcome once again, sir. We're so happy and honored to have you. Thank you for the access. This is I think it's the third time you are honoring us with your presence. We are super grateful. Then I would introduce Mr. Joseph Taiwo Rilogbon. Thank you so much for coming, sir. He's an experienced software engineering expert with several years of experience. He's currently the co-founder and CTO of Nestcoin. And prior to that, he was being the CTO of Bundle Africa, has been the head of technology at Carbon. He has also been the technology lead and partner at Tripican, VP Engineering of TalentBiz Nigeria, CTO of Jobberman. And before all of that, he was also a lecturer at Federal University of Technology at ULA. And so I'm super honored to welcome you, sir. Thank you so much for coming. It brings like a strong background of leadership and also hands-on experience in software development. Thank you so much for coming. He was an alumni of Obafemi Awolowo University and also has a master's degree at Columbia University. Thank you so much once again for coming, sir. And then Temitayo Fagbowore is currently the director of information security at Adidas Germany. And before that, he was a senior consultant at Ernst& Young. And just for those that don't know, he switched from software engineering, software development to cybersecurity. And so I'm hoping that he would also bring some of that experience with him too. So he was the technology lead at Iconway, and then he also worked at Center of Excellence in Obafemi Awolowo. So thank you so much for coming once again, Saz. Looking forward to having many of my questions answered because I'm a techie too, so I have many questions I was hoping to be answered. So welcome. So please, if you are, please write your name, and where you are joining in from. You can also send in your questions You can send in your questions. We have onlinequestions.org. If you want to ask your questions anonymously, you don't want maybe someone to know that you're the one asking the question, you can use this platform, onlinequestions.org, and the event number is 1101. Onlinequestions.org, and the event number is 1101. Let me just share that with our speaker. Let me just share it here. 1101 event number. Okay, so we hope you can see that as well. Okay, Samuel, you're welcome from Nigeria. Mr. Mustafa joining in from Ogun State, Nigeria. Thank you so much. Mr. Mustafa was our mentee, has been our mentee first cohort, second, and third. I think he's taking a break this time around. Thank you so much for joining. Okay, Borderless Digitals, this is Tosin from Nigeria. You're welcome, sir. Mr. Damilare, okay, that's our current mentee. You're welcome. Thank you so much. Don't forget to send in your questions. I think we've spent some like amount doing some introduction. So let's just go right ahead. So Mr. Taiwo, Mr. Temitayo, Mr. Richard, you're welcome. You can unmute yourself now. So maybe I'll start with Mr. Taiwo. How has it been? Maybe you want to do like a brief introduction. How did you get into tech? Did you always know you were going to go into tech right from the beginning? Okay, I know you were an undergraduate of computer science or computer engineering OAU. So did you always know you're going to be in tech?
That's an interesting question. So I wouldn't say I always knew. It just felt like the only thing I could do back then. I had this strong interest in well, I would say my interest there with maths, calculators, and all that. Unlike when regular techies would speak, they would say maybe they're interested with video games. Mine did not start with video games. I had an obsession with math and calculators and just being able to program calculators to do different. I could, when you see calculator has 52 functions, I could show you how to use everything and show you the theoretical aspect of it. Um, and then I remember speaking with some of my friends then, and we're talking about Bill Gates, how he's the richest man and all that. And, it just spurred my interest in like, okay, what did he even do to be the richest man? And then I had that interest in going into school to study computer engineering. The alternative route then would have been to do medicine, which I didn't like. Another alternative was chemical engineering. There were a lot of opportunities, and oil companies were like the big deal then. But it didn't look like something I wanted. Plus, it was also a very restrictive field because if you were not working in an oil company, it was kind of difficult to like get into anything else. So, computer engineering it was. It wasn't really popular back then just because there were so many people felt like electrical engineering was a bit more worthwhile. But I decided to go for computer engineering. I didn't want to go for computer science because it didn't make sense to spend 5 years doing something that I could spend 4 years doing in another school. So I wanted the engineering bit of it. And then, yeah, I got into AU and there was a lot of inspiration, pleased to say, right? Just so many talks, so many events that could spur your interest in that field. And I just fell in love with software engineering back then.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much for that. But just wanted to still with you, sir. You said computer engineering was not so popular then, and now it seems like everybody study that computer engineering, software engineering, and all of that. Do you think um, what do you think is really motivating them? Is it because it seems to be like a very lucrative role, or I don't know what's changed? Was
Yeah,
it
I think what changed is there's been a lot of demystification, or I don't know, maybe not demystification, but there've been a lot of how do you put it now? In the words of a recent interview, so like the Nets have taken over, right? You look at the top maybe 20, 30 billionaires in the world. I'm using a couple of them are working in tech, and a lot of people have started saying that okay, these guys are wasting their time with computers some years ago. But well, the time they spend on computers is paying off. And you look at some of the most powerful companies in the world today; they are all focused on tech. Apple is probably the most really valuable company in the world today with over 3 trillion market cap. You have Tesla, you have Facebook, you have Google. All these things are based in tech, and yeah, I think that's actually enough to spoil a lot of interest in that. And then aside from just the fact that people go to school to study computer engineering, there's also the fact that in tech the barrier of entry is quite low. One of the reasons why I liked math back then in school was that sorry, I'm using math. I mean, not America now. Why I like mathematics? No, you can't contest. Yeah, one of the reasons why I liked mathematics back then in school was because every other subject, well, aside from physics and chemistry anyway, you could be asked to define something. And when you have to define that thing, if you don't give it word for word, sometimes the way the teacher wants, it's a problem. But math is math. You can't disprove what I've done because I could show you replicate every step. If I have a solution, I could walk back to the problem. It was very definitive, right? And so for me, just that certainty that comes with everything, um it's one of the reasons why uh I find it interesting.
Okay. 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 Thank you very much, sir. Okay. So, Mr. Richard, I know you've been this. I think it's the third time you joined us for our webinar. So, I know you've like done like an intro of how you got into tech and all of that. So, just wanted to ask again. Do you think it's easier? What are the challenges you faced then, and do you think it's easier for people getting into tech now, like from university, or what's your opinion, sir?
Yeah, thank you. So it's a lot easier now. I mean, it's no doubt there's AI, ChatGPT, and the likes. In those days, there was nothing GPT anything for you. You have to just go all out. So there are so many factors that would naturally discourage you. There was no real access to internet. We're kind of sharing password. I mean, those days, like you share password, if someone's logged in with that password, you can't get on the internet, and then you have to call the person, hey, please get out of the internet, I want to use the password, stuff like that. And then so there's very limited access to the internet, right? We were more of like driving through the community energy we had. We built a very strong community and we're learning all together. I think that was one of the things that kind of helped us, power through because the challenges were too much. Power issues, you run out of power, you don't have juice, your laptop, and then you have to bank on someone else's, like different things. So right now, but these days it's a lot easier. You have some power banks that are even powerful enough to even charge laptops, power bank. In those days, you don't even have enough, you have only desktop chargers for phones, like there are a lot of different things right now that will make your life easier. So I think right now is a lot easier. The materials are out there on the internet. In those days, there were fewer materials out there, even complicated ones. People didn't have this access to MacBooks. We only saw it in movies, and then if you are lucky enough, you probably will have Linux machine like T1 would do. I think he had a flight drive there was booting from, stuff like that. So it's a lot easier now. If people can get MacBook, it's everywhere. The default PC right now, everyone just get a MacBook. No one uses Windows. I mean, that is what I know. So it's a lot easier now. So the challenges are no longer there. I think there are different challenges these days. So
Okay.
like challenges kind of shifted a bit, but
Yeah.
I think the major ones were the ones we faced, which was like starting from the ground zero when there was nothing, and nobody believed the engineers from Nigeria. Banks were hiring expatriates from Lebanon, from Egypt to manage our banking systems. I remember one of my colleagues telling me that just go and do CCNA or CCNP. You're doing software. Who will hire you? Stuff like that. So and that was the truth. Like, it was just so yeah. So for me, I think it's a lot easier now.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. So, Mr. Temitayo, just like you said, he said the challenges have changed or shifted. Because I know that many of the newbies will complain that there are fewer job opportunities, like for
Mhm.
intern roles. For example, I know Some companies try to do, let's say, like some give back or like interswitch, money point, trying to do some like internship job shadowing program, and then like adverts to get like thousands of applications for an internship role. And maybe they just need 100 people, and then 20,000 people are applying for the role. What do you think happened from the time maybe Mr. Taiwo Orilogbon joined like 20, 25 years ago? And what was different? Is it we have fewer companies? What went wrong, or do I say what went better?
I mean, I think as to anything that is new, it gets to a point where it gets slightly saturated, right? And I think that's the age that we are in now, where the it's no longer the early days of digitization. We are pretty much now a totally or very extremely digitized world. So that's the way you have to think about it, and that's why there's now then has to now be a new way of thinking, um, with new paths coming up, and I think that really has to be the switch. It's not like there are no longer tech jobs. It's just that the popular tech jobs are no longer are very saturated. So just the same way when tech came out, there was always the networking guys. That was, I mean, tech. So networking came out when we had the WWW coming up. And then you also had the evolution of computers, evolution of mobiles. So what we now have is obviously the evolution of AI, machine learning, and all of that. So there will always be tech jobs. It's just that the popular tech jobs would no longer be the popular tech jobs in the next few years. And that's then the pivoting or the pivoting that people then need to start thinking about to say, oh no, I don't necessarily need to go into software engineering to work in tech. I could go into something else that is totally new, but it's also within tech and also applies the same technology concept as well. So I think it's not tech that is congested. It's more of the popular areas within tech that are kind of congested. And if people can shift their thinking and their mindsets to look broader and to look bigger, there are actually opportunities that are coming up.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Back to you, Mr. Taiwo. So when we are looking at job saturation, what should newbies know? What should we be telling them? The people switching from maybe medicine, agriculture, or from other fields and getting into tech, what should we be telling them? Because just like we've said, tech the tech industry job market is not like how it used to be, where we'd see a lot of remote roles on LinkedIn, companies offering to pay for relocation support. Just come with your family, come and help us build our software, help us build our businesses. But things seem to be like different. Even local jobs, like jobs within the country, seems like it's almost difficult. You keep on applying, and then after 100 to 120 applications, you are barely having like two, three application calls, and it's just the first stage. What should we be telling people, like newbies, mid engineers, or seniors? What is different? What should they be aware of so that they can prepare themselves accordingly? You are muted.
Sorry about that. One of the paradoxes of job search is that, especially for new people, is you need experience to get a job, and you need a job to get an experience, right? That it's both. Like I said, one of the beautiful things about software engineering is the fact that it's a very definitive field, in the sense that it's a matter of, if I see I know how to do A, then you have to, it's easy to prove that you can do it, right? um to get experience, I would it's the same advice I've been giving for years. The best way to learn is to pick a problem and pick a problem, try to solve it, put yourself out there, show people the problems that you solved. And I'm pretty sure people will find you. um get into GitHub communities, open source projects, try to contribute the way you can. You'll be shocked the kind of libraries that people are actually, simple libraries. There are libraries on Node.js that have millions of downloads weekly that do maybe just one thing, putting a space in between one thing or the other. I remember somebody saying that I can't remember who exactly. Somebody tweeted something about the fact that it was work. He experienced a problem. If you're someone that codes in Node.js, for example, there's this thing with sample.env. Maybe you don't want to you commit sample.env, but you don't want to commit your env file to the project, and the person wrote a simple Node.js library or something that automatically creates a .env file from a sample.env. It was just something very trivial, and it was at a job interview. Uh, and apparently the interviewer uses that package. You understand? So pick a problem and solve. Put your problem out there. Put yourself out there. Join, start projects, do stuff. And I think people will find eventually. And when you're speaking to people, you have something to speak from. It's very important to do that, and that's one of it. Like I said, is one of the good things about software engineering. You can actually get experience without having to actually work in an actual company. You could build projects. You could say, this is what I've done. It's on GitHub. People can go there. They can check the commit history and be sure that this is you that did it. You understand? And if it looks like something they want, of course, I'm not going to lie. There are situations where you have automatic filtering out from application tracking systems, just because job applications are a lot. People can't go through all CVs, can't go through all profiles. So yes, that happens at times. But then once you have a foot in the door, it's now up to you to prove yourself. And that also brings up the need to network. You have events like this. You meet people, you talk to people. I know I put up a job on WhatsApp some time back, and one of the people that applied said, "Oh, they came through to me," and I think that made it a lot easier for me to have conversations with them. So just have like build network, join communities, just try to get people to know people as well, because internal referrals actually go a long way when you're also looking for a job. So those are like so many things that I would say people should actually consider. From a skill standpoint, you just have to keep building up on your skills.
Okay, wow, that was really comprehensive. Thank you so much. Mr. Richard, do you want to add to that, especially for seniors? Do you think seniors should be doing anything differently, like senior individual contributors now? Should we be doing something different, especially with the way the labor market is? Or what do you think?
Mm, So I think in addition to what Taiwo already said, basically first you ensure you always kind of like keep sharpening your skills. Don't just sit and be obsolete, because sometimes you're locked down with whatever your company has been doing for the last 20 years or thereabout, and you're only a senior in your company. That's the thing. You've been in the company for 20 years, you've been doing the same thing for 20 years, and then now you are suddenly out in the market and you find out the whole world has moved on, right? And now you are a senior with 20 years experience, but you're not fit. So that's where it becomes a problem. And such a person may never get a job again in life. And it's not because no one wants to hire him, but it doesn't fit. Like, you're coming in with the 20 years experience, but you don't fit into it, right? So most time I think I have this popular saying like, don't let your job like dictate how you grow your career. Like, try to keep your job and keep growing your career. When you leave your job, you move on with your career, right? You can get fired from your job any moment, but your career remains with you. So when you leave a company and move to another company, you're progressing your career. So for senior engineers or people who are still kind of coming in, I'll say don't just sit down and just say, in my company we do Scala and that's what I'm doing. Just spread your tentacles and then do a lot more. As well, also, I think just to add to what Taiwo said about like for people looking for a job that I've tried and they're not getting it, I think for me, from experience, based on like interviews and the likes, I think a lot of people just jumped into tech midway. They're not kind of going back to the first principle and learning the basics. So you end up finding out that their knowledge is a bit shallow, and they could have spent a lot of time doing. So they've been making it work, but they don't know how it works. So you see, they have a lot of experience, but they don't really know how things work. And then when they come at the loggerhead with other people in their kid, and then they can fall off, right? Things like that happen. So I always tell people to try to learn things properly.
Okay.
Don't just try to hack it through. It probably can't take you far. It can only just give you like 1 or 2 hops. So that's it.
Yes, thank you so much. So, Mr. Temitayo, I have another question. So, do we, with the way the tech scene is now. We've established that there seems to be like a saturation and maybe not so many opportunities in certain popular fields. Do you still think that we should be advising people in high school to still fill in their jam forms or their A levels or whatever, to specifically go to study software engineering, or do I say computer science? Do you still think it's advisable? Do we say just go and study math, like Mr. Taiwo was always talking about, or what is your advice?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because I mean, what we also have to always consider, like what Richard mentioned, is a lot of people got into tech because it was a tech boom, and it was somewhat kind of easier to get jobs back then, as long as you know just a little thing to get a job, and then you easily plateau because you don't understand the basics. Okay, so with that in mind, the question would be: would we want to advise people on what career path or what career path they should go based on what is in vogue? I mean, for me, that's first of all a question. Now, I'm thinking as a parent, I would definitely, obviously, before advising my kid to say, okay, yeah, this is what you're going to study in school, I would want to look at, okay, what is indeed viable in the industry? What could help you make a living, or what could, in what area would you have a better chance and a better opportunity? So to directly answer your question, to say, okay, should we keep advising people to keep filling to software engineering or computer engineering in school? I would say yes. Because the reality of it is that I don't think the digital world is ever going to change away from it being digital. It's just how it's going to look like. It's what's then going to be different. I mean, if you watch a lot of science fiction, you will say, okay, yeah, maybe in 2050 we'll start having cars flying, or we'll start being able to teleport, for example, and all those things. Yes, it's fictional, but it's just reaffirming that the world of tech is the world of tech. It's what it is. It's just then the specialty that is required that will then vary.
Okay.
So the direct answer is yes. Software engineering, computer science, tech is still always going to be viable because we have a world that is built on tech. I mean, the fact that we are in this session is built on technology. Technology enables this, and this is not going to go away. The approach is maybe going to be different, but telecommunication is always going to be. So the direct answer is yes. It's just that don't limit yourself to what currently exists. It also depends on your own ability to also imagine and picture and think beyond the natural.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Taiwo, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, so I would say the first thing you have to ask yourself, why do you want to go for software engineering in the first place, right? That's actually very important. And then you have to think, what are you considering? What do you want to do after that? What do you want to do with it? One of the things I could say for sure is that with time, the way schools would change their approach towards teaching software engineering courses as well. As the industry evolves, at least schools that are responsive, not too restrictive, they would evolve as well. And this is a bad example, but take for example, when we got into you were learning high level languages, we were learning Fortran, um, 98. The said force were learning Fortran 70, so they learned Fortran 75 or something. Fortran 98 was still a bad thing to teach us at that time because it wasn't too relevant to the industry, but it changed. And by the time we got to general level, places where they were teaching C, they changed it with Java, and we started doing Java instead. And you look at today as well, I think by the time told me your set or the set after you came in, they were already learning Python in 100 level. Things had already changed drastically. And I'm sure if I go back to OAU today, the things that they're learning in school is different. And that's OAU that is in Nigeria that we could argue maybe doesn't keep up with the tech evolution. When I went for my master's degree, what we're learning was also very different, was something that was relevant to what's happening in industry. And that's one of the things that universities do as well. Universities influence industries also influence universities, like a feedback loop. And I think as the definition of what the software engineer changes over time. Universities would also adjust to fit what needs to be learned. Whether you use AI, whether you use I don't know, some of the best tools, whatever tool you use, the fundamentals of computer science would always remain, and investors will always be there to teach people. Um, but if you just want to get a job in software engineering, I don't think you should go to school to spend 6 years. Go to a boot camp and learn. Pick a textbook, learn the basics, go to a boot camp and get experience, right? If that's all you want to do. But if you're in for the long haul, I think that universities would always be there to meet the need or whatever is needed for over time, with respect to software engineering career. So yeah, if you're going to school, you want to pick a career in software engineering, just be sure of why you're doing it. Be sure of the motivation. If it's just to get a job, then you don't need to stay at home especially in a place like Nigeria where people have to apply for jam several years. You don't have to wait at home for several years trying to get into. I know several people working in software engineering now that even touch computer science in school. Some of them even doing engineering course, right? And they're doing okay, right? So yeah, I would say motivation is very key, and software engineering will change over time, and people need to just be clear on what they want.
Okay. Thank you so much. So I don't know if everyone can see what has been shared on the screen. This is like a report, and I was hoping that we could address. So a recent study revealed that software engineering job postings dropped by over 70% between 2023 and 2025, from Indeed.com. Indeed.com is a popular jobs portal in US. So of course, people can always get remote jobs from that platform. But so the study says that job postings have dropped over 70% between 2023, that was 2 years ago, until now, especially fewer junior and mid roles. What factors do you think may have contributed to this sharp decline, and how do we foresee this trend continuing? I think maybe we'll direct this question to Mr. Richard. Do you think that so somebody was saying probably it's because tech startups hired a lot during that 2021 period, 2022, they hired a lot just to build their products so that they could attain a certain light, they could be perceived in a certain light by investors, maybe wanted to go for IPO and all of that. Was that what they did when they hired a lot, they built their product, they laid off, and then no more job postings again? Do you think that was what happened?
So I think if you look at the timeline, you probably can easily place this also side by side with COVID
Okay.
itself. During COVID, there were a lot of startups, there were a lot of ideas, innovative ideas that were driving home office, development experiences and all sort of things. So all sort of areas that never existed, before started springing out, like so many things, delivery services and all sort of things. So COVID brought in all of those guys. While some of the ideas were at that point they were shiny, right? True ideas would stand the test of time. So a lot of them couldn't sustain themselves outside of COVID. So when the COVID struck, there was a boom. Investments, Zoom also had the highest. Zoom is an example. Zoom was peaking they were very valuable at that point in time, and after that it went down. So if you put that same thing on other smaller startups, probably the curve would be the same. So this timeline shows that at that time, while again, like if you kind of move it a bit backward towards like 2019, 2020, it was kind of climbing. It was climbing, but it kind of COVID accelerated it to the point that it's kind of choked the industry. And just like the normal nature of things, it will find equilibrium at some point. So at some point, it will find a balance. And while the world was trying to find a balance, guys that hired too much are trying to find, okay, now we've hired too much, can we either diversify or find other product lines and the likes? And now AI is kind of throwing spanner into that wheel in a way that some jobs are becoming obsolete. For example, QA is one of those most affected areas where QA used to be manual testing. We had manual testers, we had automated testers. Now, gradually, in a whole company, probably won't even have any manual testers. Like developers are writing their own tests themselves. We have more tools these days that are basically powering tests. So naturally, some jobs were actually fizzling out, right? Because AI was there, and also COVID was also doing its own part. Like was kind of so. We're getting to a point where it's an interesting point where we're recovering from COVID. AI is also kind of coming in. Investors are looking at it. Can we cut more cost by not hiring more people, or can we just get rid of more people and bring in AI? Or things like that. So when people run their resource planning, they look at it. Are there things AI can do for me? If there's nothing, then they hire people. So it has gone from being, oh, let's hire more people to do this, but like, can we get more AI tools to do these things? Then if we can't get none, okay, let's get more people. So that probably influenced this. So there could be other economic factors, recessions, and even fear of recession itself, where people are basically trimming off their workforce just to prepare for what's to come. There are so many things. Like between 2020 and now, even people are still living in fear. Like a lot of tech startups are still living in fear. They're not sure. So they're kind of trimming off to be sure they have enough to kind of run further. So I would say that's like a major factor. Would this ever rise again? I think it's going to rise again. Like it's a natural curve. It's going to happen at one point. There will be another boom. It's already happening actually. I think investors are looking at the best way. So again, AI is still kind of coming in. We thought Bitcoin would do it, but Bitcoin really go into tech per se. More into like but now we're looking at AI is coming in. So everyone is trying to find the business model. They're trying to find what the business model. Once they strike that, it will boom. It's like to go up. And the question is that what are young engineers doing right now to position themselves for such a boom? Right? Because we have this like prompt engineers now. Like the prompt engineers now, like when I saw that role, like wait, role called prompt engineers, just knowing how to ask AI the right question, that kind of things. How are people positioning themselves for what's to come? But there's going to be a boom actually. You just need one person to strike that business model for AI. No one has found it yet. We're just investing, experimenting AI for shoe making, AI for this and that, and yeah. So that's my point of view. Looking at that chat.
Yes, thank you so much. So it seems like we have shifted now into artificial intelligence. I have a few questions in this space. So as AI continues to evolve, what specific AI related skills, both coding and non-coding now, should tech professionals focus on to stay competitive and relevant? Mr. Temitayo, do you want to speak on this?
Yeah. I would say that there's definitely going to be a lot because if you think of the way AI functions, I mean, obviously relies a lot of data. So you have a lot of data scientists and data engineers. He also reminds me of one of the reasons why I went into cybersecurity, which is also robotics. So you also have the likes of robotics engineering because you need to think about AI. That's also the thing. Because I think Richard also mentioned that you really do need to be aware of the fundamentals because the awareness of the fundamentals will help you really think. Because so now for a lot of people, when you talk about AI, it's more of the ChatGPTs and the prompts. But AI is also infused into automobile, infused into robotics, infused into pretty much anything that is tech related. So it's not just going to be the ChatGPTs, you're also going to be looking at automated systems, which you've already started seeing with the likes of Tesla, and also a lot of car manufacturers like BMWs and also Mercedes. So there's always going to be a lot of jobs in that area. You're talking computer vision, also computer vision engineering. You're talking natural language engineering. So it's more of the kind of research you're willing to do. And I think for me, the objective is to really expand the mind, how the mind thinks for the audience. That is just not what you see now. It's open AI. Everybody's talking about open AI, is talking about ChatGPT, creating images and all of that. There is more. Because I think there is always the vision of technology to have like interconnected systems. So you're also going to be looking at automated homes, not the current, maybe built on the likes of Alexa that we currently have. But what I'm trying to say is that AI is bigger than what a lot of people think it is. So if you think beyond what people currently summarize AI to be, you would always find jobs. You would always find jobs in that regard. So it's more of, in summary, doing your research and trying to figure out, like what Mr. Taiwo also mentioned, what's your area of interest? Because computer vision engineering sounds very interesting, but is this something that you're interested in doing? So it's pretty much combining what your area of interest is versus the potential opportunity that can come along your way from an AI perspective, and trying to fuse both together to then define, okay, this is what I need to train myself on, or this is what I need to learn. But don't just jump on the bandwagon to say, okay, yeah, this is the new thing. Okay, yeah, let's all rush in that direction. Be strategic and be specific in your approach.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Tayo, do you want to add to that?
Yes, I think I have a few thoughts around just generally on this. I've been doing this whole software engineering thing now for, I don't want to mention, but for a very long time. And when I started building web applications or websites back in 2023, sorry, it's 2023, 2003, that's like 22 years ago. The popular tools then were Dreamweaver, Flash, you have Macromedia Studio. If I mention Dreamweaver today, I'm pretty sure more than half of the people on this call probably don't even know what it is. I mentioned Fireworks, Flash, and all that. Those were like the tools back then. You also had Microsoft had this there. I think it was Microsoft homepage or something. I can't remember what they called the name of that software that you also use for software engineering tools. And within 5 years, things have changed. Prior to these tools, people were using Notepad. Today, people are using VS Code plus or whatever. Like tools keep changing. Cursor and all these things, right? I'm like, why are we back to text-based stuff? But what I'm trying to say in essence is that while a lot of people see, yes, there's the competitive part of AI, competing with your job and all that. But the way I see it as tools, tools that help you program, evolve. If you wanted to build a Java application, say 20, 30 years ago, you have to learn Java EE, you have to learn how to work with servlets and all this stuff, which was very complex to do. Today, you don't need to do any of that. People talk about single page applications today. I remember we tried back when I was at City of Jobberman. We tried building something that was very close to a city, to an SPA once, and it was really difficult to build. Today, you're using React, writing components in React, and all that. These are things that didn't really exist 10, 15 years ago. I don't know, like tools keep changing, and the problem with the way tools change is also that the level of the abstraction layers gets thicker. So if you ask me today, I've been doing software engineering for a long time, but I can't debug assembly code for the death of me. Like I don't know jack about it, or bytecodes or whatever. If you ask me to tweak compilers, I don't know anything about system engineering. You get, just because the layer where I'm comfortable is say high-level programming languages. Now you have people who don't even understand JavaScript, but spend a lot of time writing React. These things keep changing abstractionally, and I think that one of the major things that this is why, even as Mr. Tayo said, one of the things that we need to actually think about is we still need to know the fundamentals, the basics, the fundamentals, how things work at the base. That is actually very important. That is one skill that would never go away. And then see AI as new set of tools. What do you need to do to get better with these tools? I think from the few times I've experimented, I work with Copilot a lot. I don't really use Cursor and Widsoft and all these other tools because I just find them a bit encumbering. But one of the things I believe that you need to learn to do when you're working with these tools is you need to learn to be able to formulate and clearly communicate ideas. That's actually very important.
Okay.
You need to be able to formulate ideas properly. And then there's also the need to be able to read code and improve on debugging skills. Just be able to look at code, identify where problems might be, because AI tools would always introduce problems, and you will be there to solve there has to be a human being to be there to maybe like correct some of those problems at times. And I think I was using Cursor recently, and it encountered the problem, and next thing is asking me, should I, like, it wants to open Google to search, and I'm like, I know supposed to be an all-knowing AI and all that. So there would always be that. So you just need to work on clarity of communication, ability to formulate ideas, improve debugging skills, and very importantly, know the very fundamentals, of your job. That's very crucial, because the time we come, ChatGPT servers might be down. well, maybe you use Claude anyways. Internet might be down, you might not have access, and you would need to still know the fundamentals. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. So now that we are talking about AI generated code, there's this question I have here. There's a growing concern about risks associated with AI generated code, and some people call it vibe coding. So there are risks such as security vulnerabilities, technical debt, bloated and misaligned code. For newer developers, the dangers are even greater because they often lack the foundational knowledge to validate or understand what the AI produces. Are there other AI trends or pitfalls that tech professionals should be cautious about as they embrace AI tools? So, Mr. Richard, do you want to like touch on this?
Yeah. I think I have a personal experience. So um I was implementing K-means clustering, and then K-means clustering algorithm, and I wanted to just see the opinion of ChatGPT. Basically, I put ChatGPT and Gemini and all of those guys by the side. I wanted to compare what they were doing compared to what I was doing and see what the difference was. And I found out that as at some point, they were kind of so because the mathematical model behind it is generic, like you know what it is, but they were kind of hallucinating. They were doing things that were not needed. And then if I didn't know exactly what I was doing, I would have just lifted that code and just put it in my system. And the thing is that because you didn't write the code, it would be difficult to debug in production because you can't really you can't validate all the edge cases. No, so the base case will work, but you hit a very crazy edge case in production. I can't even explain why it's not working. So these are the dangers of AI, because you run into very unreliable systems. You know, like that. For example, if you're building a military grade system, you can't like your reliability. It can't be less than 100%. Military grade system, you can't. So if you're building military grade system with AI, the danger is even there, right? Even more, because again, you get to production, it does something else. So for me, I think I always say this, we can't overemphasize. I think that we've said this so many times on this call, is the fundamentals are quite important. Like, see AI as a baby that needs to learn from you, right? So that it needs to be guided. You can't entirely just leave it to just sail. You need to kind of like, you need to validate it, but you need your own knowledge, foundational knowledge. And also the fears and all these cares of losing jobs and AI stuff. I think for me, it's more of, if you go back to the very BCs and all this, like 20th century, 1920s, and when wars were the thing then, where people will fight, go to battles with like, swords and stuff like that. Those are the real battles where you actually have to face each other with the axes and stuff like that. Now, when gunpowder was invented, right? Now, the invention of gunpowder did actually get rid of the soldiers. So there was still need for soldiers. So imagine the soldiers being afraid of, oh, now there's gunpowder, that means we don't have to go to war again. No, because it's just the dynamics have changed. How you fight the war now is going to change. Now AI is coming in. We humans are not going to go away, but how you use these tools will change. So if the world has moved on from fighting battles and wars with like sword and the likes, and you're still sticking with that, you can't even last a single battle. Like, you're done, you're gone, because everyone is carrying AK-47, M16, and the likes. But because you want to stick with your axe and whatever, they'll just give you one night stand shot and you're good, you're done. So AI is not. And I think the most important thing is you have to embrace it. Like, don't see it as something coming to take your job, because you can't win this war. It's investors' war. Like, you can't win this war. Investors will tell you, when you leave, something else can do your job. If that incorporate that, you get out of it, right? So for me, I think people need to kind of start seeing where they can. You need to find a way to collaborate with AI in a way, right? If there are skills you need to kind of like pick up and kind of like T. said, you need to know how to communicate with this AI. Communicate in clear terms what you want to say, exactly what you want the AI to do for you. You have to be able to communicate that. And that's why now that was brought up something called prompt engineering, like prompt engineers, where people that are trained to specially talk to AI to get the best out of AI. So that's another job coming out, right? So now imagine an engineer. Imagine you also kind of hone your skill in that direction where now you can actually engage AI properly. A prompt engineer can't take your job, right? But if you're an AI that if you're an engineer that is not taking that into consideration, it takes just 1 or 2 years before a prompt engineer in collaboration with a co-pilot or a cloud or a Cursor or a Gemini will just take over your job. So for me, it's more of embrace it, and find a way to collaborate, find the skill sets you need to learn so you can work together with it, because it's not going to go away. It's going to even become even better. Like, it's going to become more sophisticated. It's like people working with remotes. In those days, we used to have remotes with rope, with like wires. Early remotes had wires, and then it moved from wire to infrared. Now it's even more sophisticated. Now we're no longer using all of those, pointed technologies anymore. So things will keep moving. If you don't prepare yourself for it, you'll be knocked out naturally, and you can't even fight it. So I think in one line, I would say, position yourself again. Fundamentals are quite important. Don't just jump on a boot camp, learn Java in 2 weeks and then put senior engineer on your head and be looking for a job. You will get job, and the job will be joblessness, because that'll be your job. You'll be looking for job. So, but if you go back and learn the basics, you actually give yourself more opportunities, because now you can compete at that level. When everything fall apart, your fundamentals will come to play. So this is what I would encourage people to do.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much. So one of the questions I had here was basically about having plan B. Given all the rapid shifts, the whole changes, we've talked about the trend of hiring, job posts and all of that, reducing and all of that. Should tech professionals be considering having a plan B? Some people have said maybe they should learn a vocational skill, a career safety net and the likes. Is this advisable? If yes, what kind of backup plans should they be having? Mr. Temitayo, do you want to talk on this?
I mean, at least I don't have a backup plan. So maybe we can start from there. I think it's also what you're looking for, because I don't want to be, how will I call it now, insensitive here. It depends on what you're looking for. If you're somebody that is in here for a long run, this is what you love to do, you love it. I don't think it should be a problem, because for me, competing with the best brings out the best in you. So it really boils down to what you're looking for. Are you looking to be mediocre and just try to stagger your way through, or you are really looking to be part of the best and doing something meaningful? So that the direction of your decision in that really determines the advice that you take. But if you're somebody that you're really interested and this is really what you love doing, I think you would really be excited, because this is like something new, something to challenge you, something to spike your mind. So that for me would be the response. I wouldn't say you should have a plan B because of the challenges that are coming. Because if you're having a plan B now, like we've all said, there would always be new things. There will always be new challenges. And it always then depends on how you see it. Do you see them as a competition or you see them as an enabler? But I think anybody that has somewhere going that you're really doing this because you love it, you would see all of this as an enabler. I mean, like you said, right from get-go, you either started learning Fortran and you started programming in the likes of C or C++, in the likes of C#. Now we have all those languages that does magical things. I mean, if you had a plan B to say, oh, well, there were people that Java was all they knew, and they didn't necessarily bother learning new stuffs. Now they are somewhat relevant. So it depends on how you see it. It depends on how you see it to say, is this something that I want to do for the long run, or I'm just one of those people that are just staggering to just because, oh, it's tech. So whatever it is that you belong on, it depends on which of the direction in terms of decisions you would be going.
Okay. Thank you so much. Mr. Taiwo, it seems like you want to say something. Do you have a plan B? He said he doesn't have, maybe you have, sir, that you can share with
I
us.
don't
So,
know. I'll probably start a farm. It's just that I don't know how to farm, but okay, I'm just joking. The truth is, job, like I said, the way I see this, these are tools that would cause the fundamentals of your job, the specifications of your job as an engineer to change, and you need to be to learn how to evolve with these changes, right? I think one of the things that people miss, I don't know, maybe because my master's degree was in natural language processing. As a then LLM and all this stuff were mostly very theoretical. Deep learning was just coming up back then, and one of the things, maybe because I have some sort of fundamental understanding there, I've not really tried keeping up since anyway, to be honest. But my intuition around AI right now is that people are confusing abilities for languages to these models to generate languages with the ability for them to reason and be creative. You understand? And that in itself is actually a problem. There are tools, they help you. I was watching a video yesterday about vibe coding, and one of the things that the person that was teaching in that video said was that AI perform many of these vibe coding software perform better with languages that have been around for longer
Okay.
versus languages that are maybe new or fewer people use. So, like Elixir, for example, many of these tools don't perform very well with Elixir. Why? Because there's not a lot of data out there that these tools can be trained on. So it's not like these AI tools are really, really great at generating new ideas. They work based on all the knowledge that is out there, at least as at now, anyways. Their reasoning capabilities or ability to be creative is still very, very, very slow. You see people like New York Times sue OpenAI because they're like, oh, you guys, your AI is using our writing style, so you most likely trained your AI on an article, and that's just it. Because AI would look through all this stuff, learn the styles, and then just use this stuff to manufacture text. And I'm not trying to say this is not a good job. It's not doing a good job. It's doing a great job. But you also need to understand that the fact that I speak a language does not necessarily mean I speak English, I speak Yoruba, but the fact that I speak English does not mean I'm a great writer like Chimamanda Adichie, for example. You understand? There would always be that need for creativity. There will always be that need for inspirational stuff that create new ideas, and I think that's one of those places where AI might take a while to catch up. If you're trying to come up with a very new solution that maybe there's no example out there, it might be difficult for AI tools to break down the ideas into stuff that they can actually create. So there's still a lot of opportunity for us as engineers. One, I think you need to keep the enabler mindset. That AI is actually complementary to my job, and it's not replacing me right now. You need to keep that mindset. That's actually very important. And the next thing is just learn what's the best way to get the best out of these tools. What are companies looking for? Are companies changing in response to AI? To be fair, there's going to be fewer need for software engineers because the number of peer programming is one of the best things in software engineering, where you have like your coding, you have someone beside you, and now you have stuff like Copilot, or Claude, or all these code editors working side by side you. They make your code generation, they make correction of your code a lot easy. It can be a nuisance at times, but at least it still makes doing some very mundane tasks like maybe grouping and sorting and all those things a lot easier than it would have been if you were writing alone, right? I've had times when I'm coding with Copilot and maybe code that would have taken me maybe like another 15 minutes to generate or write. It just generates this boilerplate code for me, which means as a software engineer, I could actually do a lot more within the same amount of time. You understand? So why would I need an additional software engineer to do this? You have pull requests. Copilot today can work on pull requests. It's not so great, but it's doing a fairly decent job. Give suggestions. I've had to catch a number of bugs in pull requests like a couple of times now. So these tools are going to keep making the job a lot faster. Software engineers can actually focus on other things. Maybe it would also increase creativity because now you can spend more time thinking about idea generation than maybe implementation and all that. So you're just trying to understand how these tools are just going to involve the job generally. But if you want to make a plan B, is also good. You don't have to. I think everybody should have a plan B for something. someone could throw a bomb that would destroy the servers in the world, and we'll all be out of job. I work in a crypto space; everything can decide to crash tomorrow. So who knows? But yeah, focus on your transferable skills as well, that you can use in other fields.
Okay, thank you so much for that. So we'll be moving to like industry layoffs, tech jobs, layoffs, and all of that. Mr. Richard, what are the practical steps tech professionals can take to minimize their chances of being impacted by layoffs in nearest future? Any advice, tips? Do I monitor my manager? Oh, he's in a good mood, or he just came back from leaders meeting, he's squeezing his face. Maybe I should quickly dust my CV. Are there things I need to do so that at least to prevent me being affected and all of that?
I think, I mean, being affected is either I talking about prepare yourself ahead of time and getting out before it happens, or just so the thing is that the thing is so usually like layoffs are usually very tough decisions. Like most companies don't want to do it because they've kind of built this family or relationship with all the colleagues and always tough. And I think decision to kind of trim off most times, or who to trim off, usually sometimes happens outside of the even at the manager level, maybe at the C level sometimes, like it all like peaked. And what they do is just like a pulse check. Oh, let's do a pulse check. Let's see what we can like if we trim 20% of this workforce, we should be fine. But do we have any like low performing subset of these people? And so usually the low performance, is usually one of those like very key yardsticks to kind of getting selected, right? So I think for me, I always tell people that, and again, like if you're in a company, try not to be docile. Don't just be passive. Don't just go on a task for 3 weeks and just speaking grammar and stand up and just say, "Hey, I'm doing this, I'm doing that." You're not pushing PRs. Tasks are getting like again like one of those symptoms like having like 4 tasks in progress, at the same time. At the end of the sprint, we're moving all of those into the next sprint, and you add 4 of them in progress, for example. So those things are and they're very accumulative. At some point, everyone would know, even without anyone, pointing fingers at you. You would naturally know that you're your way out. So, so I think it's very difficult for any company to get rid of that star player. That'll probably be the last person to close the door. Like that'll be very difficult. So, and layoffs are business decisions. They're not they're actually not tech decisions. So they're not saying, oh, because we're no longer using JavaScript, we're going to get rid over all our JavaScript developers. No, they'll find something else for you. But business decisions like, hey, okay, we need to increase our runway and stuff like that. So the business will look at tech. Hey, tech, you need to kind of make a compromise there. And tech will look back and say, you know what, okay, let me look at the guys who are, I mean, a lot of this could play. It could be like, you look at GitHub history, for example, look at, okay, who are the high contributors? It could be that you look at, PR reviews, for example, you have a task, like continually, your tasks are being reviewed by different people, and it goes on and on and on and on, and so many mistakes, so many this and that. Basically, the quality of job is not there. So these are very like day-to-day things that will keep happening. And to you, you may feel like, no, that doesn't matter. And at least I still have my job and getting paid. I know people who will say that, see, that my company just flex. We are flexing. You don't have to do much. Just go there, speak English during stand-ups, and then you're good to go. It's fine, right? But don't blame the devil when the storm strikes, right? Because when there's layoff, they look at, okay, who are the people that and they don't hate you. Again, like I said, they don't hate you, but it's a business decision, right? They look at who are these people that can leave this company and we don't feel it too much. They'll feel it, of course. They will feel your space. They'll feel you're not there, but it's a business decision. And even like I think it goes back to you being very productive, very intentional about your job. Like solve problems, and because the more problems you solve, the more experience is a win-win. You are more experienced, you have more knowledge about different systems, different problems. But when you just sit down and you just enjoying the salaries, and it's also fine. So I think for me, it's more of like, if you have to prepare for it, you don't prepare from when you start noticing. You prepare from even before anything start happening. So you just be on top of your game, like be the best of yourself, right? Don't be docile. Don't just say the company does not care. You're fine. No, don't try that. It's not looking so good already if you're saying that, because there's always something to solve. Like there's always something to solve. Tech debts, things like that. You need to kind of be proactive, and that's what the company wants. So to position yourself to be selected for layoff is just speaking grammar and do all of those things I spoke about earlier on, and all. You only need about 3-6 months, and then you know where you belong. So that for me, it's what I would put on the table. I mean, Taiwo might have a different. It's a city anyway, so they are at the sea level. They know how these things work over there. But I think it's that's my point of view right now. And Tilogbon, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, so I could offer. I think I've been on both sides, so I think I could offer an employer's standpoint to this. I've had to do like 2 or 3 rounds of layoffs now, so it's not the most. I have to be honest with you. It's not. I remember one of those times my co-founder was literally crying on the call. People probably think it's maybe sure, but it's not, because these decisions are always very tough. What I would say, just like Boye said, is it's very important to keep performing at the top of your job. I'm not saying be a toxic competitor that tries to push everybody out of the way just to be the only one doing stuff. But just let people see what you're doing. Let people see you. If your managers are complaining about your rate piece of delivery, work on improving it. That's actually very important. It's really very difficult to get rid of those guys that you know that your company can't do without. You do everything you can to keep them as much as possible. I think the other thing is, if you're working at a tech startup, or even just any company generally, it's always very important to understand the health of the company. What's the health of the company? What's the runway of the company? Is the company generating revenue? The work that I'm doing, the product I'm working on, does it generate any revenue for the company? Is the revenue generated by this stuff that I'm working on, is it even enough to pay my salaries and all that? Of course, many of the times those things might be beyond your control. But just doing that post check helps you to have a fair idea of where your company is at.
Okay.
And whether you should be looking out or not. And honestly, one of the things that I think people should also do, I'm not saying apply for jobs. There are people who actually apply for jobs just to see, okay, if their CV is actually out there. I think just look at job certifications every now and then. Be sure that whatever you're doing in your company is relevant to also what people are looking out for. And if it's not, try to build your skills to make sure that you have what people are looking for. Very important as well.
Okay. Thank you so much. So there's another aspect to that question. I was hoping Mr. Temitayo could address. So what if someone has already been affected already? Someone has been laid off already. They've shared that difficult news with them. Maybe they are still, or their co-founder also cried on the call, or maybe not. What should that person be doing now? How can they bounce back soon? Especially with, just like we've shared that things seem to be a bit different now. What can they do to like bounce back as fast as possible?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I think I'll answer it in 2 ways. Because based on all the things that we've all been talking about, if you are waiting for after it has happened to start doing something, I think it's already kind of late. Okay. Because I would ride on what both Mr. Taiwo and Mr. Richard has already mentioned, in the sense that, and I would also say, Mr. Taiwo, so I'm one of those people that I apply for jobs, even if I'm not necessarily looking to change jobs. And they are for multiple reasons. And I think this would obviously help. One is what Mr. Taiwo has already mentioned, just to gauge yourself. Where am I? I mean, you can be a high performer in your company, like Mr. Richard has said, but you're doing one specific thing that is not necessarily valuable outside. So you need to always assess yourself, and not, yes, you can always take the trainings, you can always do all of that, but you need to be able to assess yourself against what the industry. So sending out your CVs, okay, how many responses am I getting? How many interviews am I getting? And the likes, okay, in the interviews will actually also help you have direct access into what companies are doing. Because they will be asking you questions about what they are doing, such that they know if you would fit. And then from such interviews, okay, fine, you get a no. But oftentimes, what do you do with it? So you got to ask this question, oh, you didn't get it right. That then should show you, okay, this is what is going on in the industry. You get asked that question in maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 interviews, or you're trying to apply and you see the requirements in 1, 2, 3 different requirements. That should give you an hint to say, okay, maybe now what I'm doing in my company, I'm already way behind. Maybe I need to pick this up. So oftentimes, if you have the luxury of time, I know a lot of people from a mental strength perspective are not so used to the getting rejection. But I think at least if you're a career person, get used to it. Yeah, even people at the very top level get rejected. That's the reality. So that's one way to go about it, where you pretty much do interviews, apply for jobs just to show where you are at. The other thing actually is also networking, because through interviews, I've met people in the industry that I wouldn't have had the opportunity to meet, because there's some doors that the interview would open to you to say, okay, you get a final stage of a very senior level job, or let's even put it in the context of the audience, you get to the final stage of a junior developer, a senior developer. You get to meet the people, and oftentimes always remember that it is not just about the job, it's also about the people that you would meet. Because yes, you might get the questions wrong, or you might not necessarily do well, but you should still be able to keep up with those people, connect with them on LinkedIn, have a very good conversation with them. And they're just people that some people are actually nice, and they will really help you through. And if at all something that happens to you in your current company where you're laid off, those are the kind of people that you can then reach out to say, okay, this has happened. In case you have any other opportunity in future, please let me know. You've done an interview before, they know where you are at. You can tell them, okay, since the interview, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. So that's what you just really need to do. So it's pretty much preparing for the rainy day. Because like Boye mentioned, and also Mr. Taiwo mentioned, it's all about the business, right? So some of these decisions are always very difficult. I would say most of them are very difficult, but you always have to consider that this is also somebody's decision. Also, it's all about the business. So in case it then comes down to you, you also then need to always be prepared. And oftentimes with people that I also know, even before the layoff, they already have like another job offer that they just have at hand. And then the layoff comes, you collect if you're fortunate enough, you collect your layoff package, and then you resume another job, and go on. So while other people are milking about it and crying about it, you have these people that are always prepared for the rainy day, just moving on with their life. The reality is that it's not always going to be like that, but you can set yourself on the pedestal of what could happen if this happens. So that's the way I would go about it, saying if you're waiting for something to happen before you start doing something, you're already late, because you're not the only one in the industry. So there are people that have been preparing before you. So you cannot just expect to just jump ahead of them. So you also have to start preparing now for multiple reasons. Like I said, doing jobs or applying for jobs or networking and meeting with people is not actually because of the immediate, it's always also because of the future. So always remember that and focus on that. And that really is the best advice I can give, to prepare yourself for the rainy day. Make sure that you're always connected, you're always engaged, always learning, knowing where you are at in the industry. Those are the kind of things that you can really get yourself into.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Thank you.
If I may add one more thing, I think it's more of like, also, it has happened. Find clusters where dev tech events are happening. Attend those events. Talk. Don't keep your mouth shut. Hey man, I just got off this job. I need a new one. Like, there's so many people out there. You'll be so shocked that some HRs actually attend those events, specifically to network and to actually fill in their own pipeline as well. So, and again, the fact that you're laid off, in company A does not mean you're not a good candidate. You may not be fit for what they're doing there, right? So you talking to other people, you could find something that actually also kind of work with you, and they also probably resonate with them, and you could land your job there. So that's a very good place to look at, like where you have clusters of like tech people, HR people, just attend conferences and go there and don't stop talking. Hey, I need a job, stuff like that. I think the very good replica of that today is what LinkedIn has, open to work. So imagine going to a tech event with an open to work badge, something like that. So that
looking for a job, please, okay.
Yeah, sorry, can I quickly add something? I know we're running out of time, but just this is more on the personal side. I think the first thing you have to recognize, especially if it's a mass layoff, is that it's not It's not you. Of course, that's a way of affecting your confidence as a person, but you need to pick yourself up. That's very crucial. And one aspect that nobody has mentioned, which I think is also very important, is the personal finance aspect of it. When you have a job, always make sure you save. If you are working and you've not, if you, I know this might be luxury. Some of us might not have it, given that we're just starting out. And you know, Africans, black tax, and all that. As much as possible, always try to take care of yourself. That's very important. Take care of yourself. Plan for your own future. If you have your own family, try to plan for your family. One of the rule of thumbs is whenever you're working, make sure you have like 6 months worth of savings for living expenses saved up. That's usually very important, so that when this happens, you are not, the financial side of things, because honestly, an hungry man is is not going to be able to function properly. And it's actually very crucial. Like I said, I understand I might be in a privileged position to be saying this, but um these are things that I've also learned to do like long before now. In fact, it's one of the reasons why I was able to maybe like take risks to maybe work with startups or work with companies where I'm not even sure of what the future holds. But just having that backup somewhere, knowing that okay, there's even if I get laid off from my job, there's soft landing. That's actually very important. And I'm saying this because sometimes you see tech people flashing things online and doing stuff. Don't fall into that trap. If you've not saved comfortably, for yourself, don't try going around spending way out of your means. The first few months when you're at a new job, you have a new pay. If you get a pay increase, don't change your lifestyle. Make sure you're saving continuously so that you have soft landing in case that job, there's no guarantee. I'm a co-founder of my company, and even me, I know there's no guarantee for my there's no guarantee anywhere. In 2022, we had one of the companies where we kept had money in just collapsed like that, and that was like a major loss as a company. There's nothing that is guaranteed, so just make sure there's backup. You try to save as much as possible, diversify investment and all that. But of course, I know this is not a personal finance webinar, but it's actually very, very crucial that everybody knows that. Try to put that into consideration as you're working.
Yes. Thank you so much for that. Thank you. So I think we've covered a number of questions. Someone said, this question is for Boyewa. From experience managing engineers, what qualities or skills make someone future proof in today's volatile tech job market? I think you've already covered that. Someone asked, how do you personally stay up to date with the fast moving AI space, and what resources would you recommend? Maybe we can add that question with what's your view, SARS, about Webflow as a web designer or someone wanting to thrive in tech? Looking at the whole competition in tech industry, do you think Webflow is something one should consider, and will it thrive? Those two questions, Mr. Boyewa, do you want to answer? Do you know Webflow?
Yeah, I do know Webflow, so I can speak to that. Well, I have a team of engineers, and I wouldn't want them spending a lot of time working on websites, tweaking stuff. So personally, on our team, we use Webflow. We have our graphics designers, our front end designers know how to use Webflow. So they use Webflow to manage our websites, and that frees up the engineering team. Of course, it's quite limited, but as you know, for most websites, you have like for most web applications, you have like the website, and then you have the app. Maybe app dot. For example, has its onboard.xyz, and you have app.onboard.xyz. Which is where the main web front end application is. But for the marketing website, which is what most people see when they come in, it's going to be a lot to just hire a software engineer just to be managing that, except maybe a Google or something. But for most startups, it's easier for them to actually get people to use Webflows. So if Webflow is what try to know it and know it very well. I think there will always be demand. There will be demand for it, but of course, I'm not going to say just rely on just one skill. But I think it's actually a good outlet for companies, for startups, especially who don't want to spend a lot of resources on building front end systems, managing and tweaking content.
Okay, okay,
Yes,
thank. And then, Mr. Boy, how do we stay up to date with fast-moving AI space? And then there's this other question for someone who transitioned into tech recently, with over a decade doing other related professional work and coming into tech. What advice would you share in respect to work and age barrier? I think we always get this question. So those two questions, Mr. Boy, do you want to speak to that?
Okay, yeah. So let me try. I think the first one would be the
In 1 minute. In one
Okay,
minute.
1 minute. Okay. Okay. Top point. Okay, so basically, like stay future proof is again, don't be limited by what your job is currently teaching you. Try to go out there, learn outside of your current job, like expand your knowledge. I always tell people, especially the young engineers or younger ones, don't specialize too early, right? If you could do 18 courses in university and you still came out with like a first class or whatever, it means you can actually do more things out there. So don't be lazy, don't specialize too early. Diversify. For example, for me right now, like I do hardware. I think Orilogbon knows that I do as well. I do hardware at the production level. I have a lab. I have like things like that. So again, you don't have to just stick to one thing. Just ensure that when things come, you actually you may not be there, but you have just a little to just ramp up and then you're there. So it's quite expensive in terms of time, but again, to stay afloat, you need to just do that. And then apart from that, I think the other question is what's the other one? The other one is moving to tech actually. So interestingly, last year I mentored a lady who actually was already like called to bar. She already like started practicing law, and she found out she wanted tech. And then she committed about 8 months into that, and then it was more like an very immense effort to kind of like get up to speed. But the fact that she had a lot of passion and she was powered by her own, she was fueled by her own passion, not just like some external like the money or things like that. There's no money in tech early enough, you will suffer. Like forget if someone tells you there's money in tech, good for you, right? But now set up because at the early stage you need to pay the dues, you need to do your own work. So you have to kind of invest a lot of time.
Oh, well, Mr. Richard, we can't hear you again.
Don't just see
Okay.
okay, yeah. So do just see every challenge as a reason to back out. There'll be a lot of challenges. So the fact that you can't solve something doesn't mean it's not meant for you. Power through, talk to people, don't close your mouth, get mentors. Mentorship actually would help you a lot because with one more person just right by your side, you can go even farther. So I think to get into tech, just get mentors. I don't change your friends, but get new friends in tech, like get new friends so you have like minds, so to say. So that would really help you. No matter how old you are, no one is too old to learn. So if you see a 20-year-old and 18-year-old who is quite smart, who has everything you need, come on, be that 18-year-old person and want to learn from another 18-year-old person, and then get what you need to move on, right? So that is what I would kind of put forward here.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Thank you to our viewers at home. I don't know if any of our guests want to add anything to what they've said. I think we've covered almost everything. Just a few announcements before we end today's session. For our mentees, just like we've said, this is part of a mentorship program. We are running our fourth cohort, and we are finally ending cohort 4 next week, Saturday. And so we are having an offboarding call May 10th by 4 p.m. West African time. So see you there. Please plan to attend. And I think that's all. And then for those just joining us for the first time, you can follow us on Instagram, The Ladder Tech, on LinkedIn, or if you want to send us an email, this is our email address, and our website is www.laddertech.com. So thank you everyone for joining in. Thank you so much to our guests. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a lovely evening and see you next time. Thank you.